I failed to remember, like, oh my goodness, like this stuff, I can do this to this and connect this to this. So I'm like, wow, this is fascinating. So
Yeah.
welcome everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm glad you're here. I failed to remember, like, oh my goodness. Like, okay, yeah, I don't need that on there. Okay, cool. I think it's really cool that everybody's here. So thank you for being here. I'm looking forward. I'm gonna have everyone check in a few. And as I did mention, this is going to be recorded live on YouTube. So if at any point you're like, I don't know if I want to be on this thing, or if you'd like, you can chat, you can communicate something in the chat rather than say it. If you want something confidential, because that's going to be off of YouTube. And then once we stop, I'm going to create some space for us so we can chop it up and get a little bit more detail about what we discussed. So I want to welcome you all. Thank you for taking the time to be here and discuss conflict resolution. This course is, first of all, I want to introduce myself. My name is Paul Newell. I've met some of you before. Michael, I know we've connected on LinkedIn recently. Blessings. Nice to meet you in this setting, brother, in this setting. Gary, I've met through the men's work, and Emily, I've met through yoga many years ago, and here we are. So this course that I created, this session that we're going to talk about today is about you navigating conflict with skill and grace. This is called the Connectus education session. And what the heck is Connectus, Paul? Well, I'm glad you asked. Connectus is a mindful communication course that I designed to enhance people's communication with themselves and with others. So in this course, and actually Emily's taken the course up to this point. This is basically like an addition to the course and something that I'm offering to everyone. And I'm going to highlight as we go through these different components, what are the lessons from Connectus that apply to conflict resolution. In Connectus, we went over things like knowing your language style. We went over nonverbal communication, knowing your language bases, which is what you see, what you think, what you want, what you feel. We also went over conflict. We're going over conflict resolution today. And we also went over what's relating language and what's communication language. So rather, what's relating language, what's commanding language. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit going forward. Before we do that, though, I want to share some things. In every one of my courses, I gots to have some ground rules. Gots to have some ground rules. The reason I do that is because I want to make sure that whatever space is created in my classes and in these courses is safe, is solid, and is a space for us to grow and be vulnerable, so we can really get into the nook and cranny of different things and rewire ourselves to something different. So for this session today, I'm going to use the standard ground rules that we have in our courses, in my courses. First ground rule, and can everyone see the screen?
Yep.
All right, fresh. So first ground rule is safety. What that means is I want you to make sure that you tune in to what helps you feel safe and secure during the session. So that could look like, hey, you're talking about something, maybe something resonated deeply with you. You want to take yourself off a screen, or you want to come off of mute and be like, hey, Paul, can we chop this up and talk a little bit more about this? I want you to do whatever helps you feel safe. That can also mean, hey, I'm going to go take a potty break. I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go get something to eat or some water. It's basically taking care of yourself. The second ground rule is participation, and participation can look like a lot of different things. It could be, in this case, communicating through chat. If there's something that you want to express that you're comfortable expressing because this is going on to YouTube Live, then you could take yourself off mute and we can discuss. It can also mean you're using the icons with like thumbs up, clapping, love, whatever it is, something that resonates with you, you can use that. Also, when people are sharing, if someone says something that resonates with you, you can raise your hand. It's basically a way of letting people know, like, oh, junk, I'm free of being alone. Oh, snap, somebody else about that too? Yes. All right, so that's your communication, or that's your participation. The next ground rule is I statements. So I statements basically mean whenever we're in this type of class, especially in this Connectus class, because this is about how we communicate an empowerment language and how we own our experiences. So there's many times when people say, well, when you do this and when you, and they're using a lot of yous. what we're doing in this class, and one of the ground rules is I'm going to continue to invite you to use an I statement. So that means instead of saying, well, when you do this, instead reframe to say, when I do this, I experience these things. It's a way of making sure that you empower yourself, and also it reduces confusion in communication with others. And the last one here is going to be difficult for this because we're going live on YouTube, is confidentiality. So if there's something that you want to remain confidential, I invite you to put that on the chat, or you can also, when you look in the chat, you can message me privately. So that's your way of, if something's resonating with you, you can send me a message privately, or if you're open to sharing it with the group, you can do that as well. And as I mentioned, we're going to take a little bit of time after this session is done to go over whatever resonated with you and talk over some other things. All right. If you're in with the ground rules, let me get a thumbs up. All right, Emily, what's the icon look like? Oh, Emily's coming on screen. Yay. Nice. All right, fresh. All right, so listen, everyone, I'm going to have you do me a favor. I'm going to have you all check in. So the check-in is going to look like, tell me your name, where you're calling from, and what conflict means to you. All right, and I'll model this. So my name is Paul. I am calling from Summit, New Jersey. And what does conflict mean to me? The first thing I think about with conflict is my former wife and family court. That's what comes to mind, because conflict is, to me, it's clashing. It's this standstill of what's going in this tug of war. So that's what a lot of conflict means to me, and I'm in with that. And once you're done with your check-in, you can say I'm in, and we'll go from there. So Gary, I'm going to have you go next, please. Name, where you're calling from, and what Connectus is.
Gary Petito, calling from Harlingen, Texas, which is way south Texas near Mexico. It's hot down here. And we conflict to me is just basically anytime, in my mind, it's when either somebody is upset with me about something, or mostly when I have a problem with someone else and how they feel, or what they're doing, or how they're making me feel, actually.
I like how they're making me feel. Yeah. Yes, I can relate. Thank you, man. I was hearing when someone's upset with me, or when I have a problem with someone, how they make me feel. Thank you, Gary. Welcome to the session. Michael, let's go with you, buddy.
Yes, Michael from New Jersey. When I think of conflict, I think of not seeing eye to eye, having uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah.
That's what I think of when I hear conflict.
Ooh, yeah. Thank you for that, Michael. The uncomfortable conversations. Man, as soon as you said that, like, I went through a movie reel in my head of some uncomfortable conversations I've had in work, in life, and relationships. So, man, I appreciate that. Thank you, Michael, and welcome, man. Good to see you in this circle.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Emily, let's hear from you. What is name, where you calling in from, and what is conflict to you?
Emily from Kilmarnock, Virginia. Conflict to me is, as was stated before, not seeing eye to eye and uncomfortable feelings. That's what it is to me, and I'm in.
I like what you said. Thank you, Emily. Welcome. And Emily is a graduate of Connectus, so she had the blessing of hearing my voice chattering in her ear for 8 weeks. So blessings to your patience, and blessings to the work that you've been doing, because I've seen Emily grow tremendously through the course. So blessings, Emily. Welcome to this educational session. Emily said something that resonated deeply with me as well. Well, both Emily and Michael said they're not seeing eye to eye, or I'm going to address that in a minute. The uncomfortable feelings. Does anybody ever get that? Well, does anyone ever get that pit in your stomach when there's the uncomfortable feeling of something? Oh my gosh. It's like, oh, I don't want to have this. I'd rather go like to the dentist and get a root canal than have this conversation with such and such. And one of the things that when we say not seeing eye to eye, I'm going to invite us to try something really quick, right? So when in Connectus and from my teachings about language is it's really about doing our best to get rid of knots. So instead of saying not seeing eye to eye, what is it? Rather than saying not seeing eye to eye, how would you say that without the knot? Anyone want to give it a go?
I think
Yes.
it's more, sorry, go ahead, Emily.
I'm sorry, I was gonna say seeing things from different perspectives.
Yeah, I like that. Gary, what were we going to say?
Maybe not appreciating the other person's point of view.
So again, free of the knots. How
Yeah.
would you say it?
Oh, free of the knots. That's right.
Yeah.
Lack of empathy for the other person's point of view. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. This is it, everybody, right? And this is, oh man, this is off topic, but like, it's not off topic, but this is off the script. Listen, one of the key things when it comes to conflict resolution is getting rid of the knots. What's the reason? The knots create confusion, right? The knots create this ambiguity with like, we're not seeing eye to eye. Well, what? Hold up, see eye to eye. Like, okay, what does that have to do with the conflict? I'm looking right at your face, right? When we say the lack of empathy, right? Failing to hear one's point of view, now it becomes clearer on what is the true what's the true conflict, right? And this is where we're looking to reveal a good amount of times, and I'm going to come back to this piece, right? And you all said something. I'm going to share my screen here again. A good amount of times when it comes to conflict, everyone, it is those differing opinions. It's the differing interests. It's I'm saying one thing, you're saying another. They fail to meet. They fail to align. And a lot of times, or majority of times in the conflict, what ends up happening is now this creates some sort of misunderstanding. This creates a tension. A good amount of time, the reason it can create tension is because now we're at this stalemate. You see how I'm even moving my fist like, it's almost like a wrestling match. Like I'm trying to wrestle you to see my point of view and vice versa. Whereas when we can start to look at the conflict as instead of like this tension, if we can begin to see it as this is simply a breakdown in our communication, that when we begin to dive deeper into what we're truly experiencing, what begins to happen then? All right. What begins to happen then when we truly dive into our experience of what we're thinking? This is important because, and this comes into one of the things that we discuss in Connectus about our brain on words. What happens is when we have first our executive brain, right? The executive brain is our prefrontal cortex. This is the part of our brain that's more aligned to our analyzer, our decision making, regulating emotions. It's like I like to think of the executive brain as that part of our brain that's like can take a step away from the situation and really look at it another way. What's going on here? Oh, I'm seeing what I said that could create this conflict, or I'm seeing what they said, or I'm hearing what they said that activated me in a certain way. Now, the thing is, when we can start to work on our communication and begin to go a little bit deeper into what's happening, now we're staying out of the amygdala, because a lot of times, even with saying that, the knots, right? The knots of like, you're not seeing my point of view. You're not getting what I'm saying. Now we start to get into this amygdala, which is the limbic brain system. This is responsible for our fight or flight. So now this creates this thing where all of a sudden, rather than hearing someone, now all of a sudden we want to battle. We fail to hear what they're even saying in the first place. And now all of a sudden it's just like, well, you said, hold up, wait a second. You don't hear what I'm saying? Exactly, because I'm ready to fight, flight, or freeze. I can recall when I was in my former relationship, whenever I get really upset, until I really started to practice these forms of Connectus, I would raise my voice and I'd be like frustrated, thinking that raising my voice would get her to understand me better, when in reality, it created a space for her to freeze. She failed to hear what I was saying. So this is the piece that really comes in when it comes to conflict. Even in our tone, we can shut someone else out, we can shut them down, or we can put them on the defense. So what we're going to go through today is we're going to look at what are the ways that we can experience conflict as a way for us to grow as an individual, and also as a way for us to grow in the relationships that we have, whether it's professional, personal, social, whatever those relationships that you have, love relationships, whatever it is. How do we get to resolve any conflict that comes up and use that as a space for growth? All right. I want to pause for a second. What's your thoughts on this with conflict, like especially hearing the opportunity that this could be a space for growth? What comes up for you when I say that?
I think I'll jump in. For me, I kind of what resonates with me when you say that is, my wife and I, when we've been married 16 years, and we've had our ups and downs and our struggles and gone through therapy. But one of the things that took her a long time to learn about me is that when I'm feeling conflict for myself, when I'm feeling uncomfortable, I have to process those thoughts. I can't just jump into a battle and get into it, because we're both on the defense, and we're guarding ourselves. And I have to relax and calm down and process how I'm feeling before I can effectively communicate to her what I'm feeling. And then she didn't understand that for a lot of years. And it was through some therapy that we figured that out. And so that's kind of go in line with what you're talking about, I think.
Yeah, it's right in alignment. Thank you so much for that, Gary. Thank you for sharing. Michael, Emily, anything come up for you? And Michael, Gary, I'm going to come back to what you were saying in a minute. Michael.
One, I would say a couple of things you said that really resonate with me was when you said tone. Using the right tone makes all the difference in the world. And then one thing I was taught was it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And being able to use the right words, because you can't take words back.
Right.
Once you say something, it's done. So you have to be very particular in what you say. And also I've learned during conflict is sometimes we try to not have a conversation, but then little things start piling up and turn into a mountain. And and you can't run from it. At the end of the day, you have to face it, and it doesn't do anything. So that's what I know about.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate the words. Appreciate your words, man. Emily, anything come up for you as I was saying that? Like, anything resonate in what I was saying?
How you were saying when you were getting to specs with your ex-spouse, and how you would raise your tone, and then she didn't feel safe. And that, to me, that's what it's about. Like, if I don't feel safe within expressing how I feel, then a lot of times I'll just shut down. So.
Yeah. And thank you for that. I appreciate everything you all said, because like this is one of the reasons I'm doing this. This is one of the many reasons I'm doing this, because first of all, Gary, what you said, conflict can begin with what's happening inside of me.
Right.
Someone could say something and I'm like, there's a conflict within me that I get to address first. And a good amount of the time is, and Gary, I appreciate what you said, because it's taken me years to understand that first, it's important for me to acknowledge that there's a conflict within me. Then it's also just as important to communicate that to the people that I love, the people that I'm in connection with, to be like, hey, you know what? Can you give me a day or something? There's some things that are coming up in me I get to wrestle with, so I can communicate with you, because I want you to know this. I want to share this with you. And right now I have yet to know what that is. Coming back to Michael, what you said, the tone, and actually it's combining with Michael, what you said, and Emily, what you said, the tone with what we speak in a conflict can begin to settle things and allow people to open up. So there's been plenty of times, like, if Like, Gary's a Cowboy fan. I'm a Giant fan, right? You could be like, no, you know what? Cowboys win the NFC East. No, Giants gonna win the NFC East. Instead, I could be like, you know what, man? Yo, you know what? Cowboys look good. They could win it. Now, Daniel Jones, though.
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley. Now, what happens? Is he going to become a Giant fan? No. Am I going to become a Cowboy fan? No. We can still have a conversation, though.
Right.
We can still love our teams. We can still
mutual respect.
Right. Mutual respect. Right.
Mm.
This is the great thing with conflict, and especially in my tone. If I'm like, rah, rah, now Gary's going to have the tendency to want to match.
Yeah.
We as human beings and we as souls, we vibrate on frequency. And the thing is that we're going to want to match a frequency. So if I start raising my frequency in tone, someone else is going to want to do the same thing. Right.
Yes.
And or defend against it, which is what Emily was bringing up. I think, Emily, when you brought that up, that was one of the biggest things for me to recognize in being in a relationship, is that when I'm in a relationship with someone, when I have those feelings, I get to settle back and really look at like, whew, man, I need to take a minute, because like if I start raising my voice and I can get like bombastic, now all of a sudden someone's gonna be like, hey, I recognize that even with my kids. My oldest, man, like there's been some time when I was in a lot of pain, like I raised my voice at him, and that mug, best believe he still lets me hear it.
Yeah.
Right. He's still like, Dad, I remember when I was 3 and you said this. I was like, how do you remember that, bro? I don't even remember that. Yet, like, this is what it is, guys. Like, and I bring this up because, Michael, like you said, which is important, the words that we speak are potent, they're powerful, they can cast spells on people. And the thing is, we're unable to bring them back. It's not like I can press rewind in the back of my head, like, and take these words back. No. What's out there is out there. Mm-hmm. So listen, let's go into what are some of the ways that we can resolve conflict before we, and then we'll spend some time in this, and then we'll start to wrap up. All right.
Can I say one thing real quick?
Of course you can. Yeah.
Yes. I think conflict comes from people hearing us and instead of listening to us.
Tell me more about that.
Because I think sometimes we think that people are listening to us. They're not really listening to with a deeper concern. There's no sincerity behind it. It's like they don't really care. They're just, when people hear you, they don't really care. They don't bring a level of concern with it. Yeah. There's no empathy.
I swear to goodness. Now, Michael is not a plant. Okay, I did not plant him in this course to set me up for this next slide. But Michael, what you said is so important. Most people are rarely heard. Okay, like in our society, we rarely hear people and what they say. So, Michael, what you just said resonates deeply with me, because one of the things that we practice in Connectus, and one of the things I encourage people to practice in general, is active listening. It's being able to listen free of judgment, being able to listen with curiosity, being able to listen with reflection, and being willing to tap in, check in. And this is also what you said, Michael, empathy. Like, can I be on your side with you and begin to see things and hear things from your perspective, listen from your perspective? One of the things with active listening that I'm a big fan of is echoing. And when someone says something, you may even heard me say before, okay, what I'm hearing you say is this. Is that correct? What's the importance of that? Well, the importance is it gets to clarify with the other person that it, first of all, acknowledges that they're heard. And for you, it acknowledges, did I hear what they say, or did I hear or listen accurately, and then be able to echo back what they said? it gives the person time to settle into the conversation and also to really reflect on the words that are being spoken rather than like, okay, somebody's saying something. Most of the time people say something and they're waiting for another person to stop so they can say what they got to say. And a lot of times, and listen, I practice this myself because this is a practice. There's times when I'm in a conversation and I could be waiting for someone to finish. And then I'm going to say whatever that I have playing in my head. And I've recognized that a lot of times, like I've gotten to say like, hey, can you say that again for me? Like my head went somewhere else.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, wait, can you repeat that again? I want to make sure I'm hearing you.
And I'm going to chime in for a minute. I took an effective listening course on LinkedIn, and they talk about that. It's because you're listening so you can craft your reply instead of listening to understand.
That's it, Gary.
Yeah.
That's what we do in our society, man.
And I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, okay, what's Paul going to say next instead of listening to the words coming out of your mouth?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And there it is. It's like, what is this person going to say next? Or I'm also listening to this like, I can't believe this jabroni's saying this. This guy right here. oh yeah. So let me tell you.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. And you might have completely missed what the person said.
Completely missed it. And again, what's conflict? A miscommunication, a misunderstanding. If I'm failing to hear what someone's saying, then guess what? Now all of a sudden, now we're in miscommunication. There was a barrier or a break in the link of alignment and how we're connecting with each other. Right. Another piece with this is curiosity. And when I'm speaking to someone and there's conflict or there's a potential for conflict, when I can reflect and echo back what they said and then say, I'm curious, can you tell me more about that? For example, like when Michael said, like, the hearing versus listening, I can have an idea in my head of what he means and assume, or I can ask the question, Michael, tell me more about that. Like when you say hearing versus listening, what's the differences that you hear, or what's the differences for you? What's the reason for that, peoples? Well, it helps us start to get on, and this is bringing in the empathic nature, because when I can ask that question and get curious and check in, now I'm starting to get a different vibe of like, oh, junk, okay, I get that now. It's free of any kind of miscommunication or lapse in communication. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And this part right here, this is the lesson that we go over. This was lesson 3 in Connectus, Intro to Active Listening. And this is also part of what we call the relator language, right? It's being able to, how do we relate to another? What's the conversations that we have to relate to another? Another way of managing of a key to constructive conflict management or conflict resolution is open and honest communication. Woo, child. What? Now, hold on for a second. When I say this, what comes to mind for you all when I say open and honest communication? I'm curious. Emily, I'm going to start with you. What comes to mind when I say that? And then Mike, I'm going to come to you, then Gary.
Well, to be honest, what comes to my mind is I don't think it goes on that much. I don't see a lot of open and honest communication around me. So that's what I think about.
Thank you. So I'm hearing is like, it's non-existent or it's rarely existing. All right. Yeah. Thank you, Emily. Michael, what's your thoughts, man? Oh, you're on mute.
I think right here that I open to my friends that people say want to hear the truth, but they can't handle it.
Ooh, brethren. Yes, man. How true is that? Oh my gosh. Yo, we can come back to that. Gary, what about for you, man?
So I'm gonna throw something completely different in here, because big part of my problem I've just recently learned about myself is if I'm honest when I communicate with people, the guilt afterwards eats me alive.
Ooh.
And I can't handle open and honest communication.
Yes.
Bro, so listen, oh man, when you say that, that resonated in my belly, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I keep it in, and that's why I stress and I'm anxious, and because I keep it in, and I maybe I'm just not learning I haven't learned how to effectively communicate without creating that conflict.
Well, you have yet to
Yeah,
learn,
right.
right?
Yeah.
So it's so interesting because like this is something that I've experienced a lot, especially in my younger years, like in my 20s and 30s, right? Shoot, even I would say last week. It was like it's this place of I'll hold,
And
and
boom.
then boom,
Yeah. The big explosion.
the
Yeah.
Yep.
big explosion. And then you know what? After the big explosion, I'm in my shame cave. Like, I can't believe I just said what I said.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
And that the guilt just eats me up.
Eats me up, guilt and shame. I can't believe I said that. Like, oh God,
Regret. Yeah.
I would have that a lot in corporate America.
Mm.
I'm like, okay, I'll do it. Okay, I'll work 12 hours.
Yeah.
And I was like, you mother, I'm sick of this. You guys treat me like crap. And you know what this is? This is an amygdala hijack.
Mm.
This is when we go so far into freezing that we go on the ultra defensive mode.
Mm.
Okay. The amygdala hijack is real. And this is what happens. And I appreciate you saying that, Gary. And this is when like I have in my head that like they couldn't handle listen, there's no way they could handle what I'm going to say. Right. And then I've refused to speak my truth. And it's my truth. It's wild. It's interesting because Michael, you said something that really resonates. What is the like about this piece of people are resistant to really hear the truth and handle it and be open to it? And a lot of times especially when it comes to open and honest feedback and communication, a lot of that is speaking from that. A lot of this can come from or be subside or be put to the side when we start to use what I like to call the language basis. So speaking specifically on what that is, that's looking at what I see, what I think, what I feel, what I want. A lot of times when I'm working with people, whether it's in mentoring or in classes or even in my full-time job in service, I hear a lot of the not wants. I hear a lot of the not, I don't think this is a good idea. Well, this creates confusion because, well, what do you think? If I fail to say, what do you think? My brain is all of a sudden searching for the threat and the danger. This puts me more in my limbic brain system. And now all of a sudden, I'm going to be looking for the ball to drop rather than saying, like, getting to the heart of, well, tell me what you do think about this. Or being able for me to express, like, I think I'm ready to do this thing, or I think this is a good idea, or I think this may be a bad idea for us. I think it could be better for us to do this. Or rather than saying, well, I don't want to fight with you, but saying, hey, I want to connect with you. I want to be real with you. I want to be transparent with you. Or instead of saying, well, I don't see this happening, what I do see happening is that we have a long-term relationship. I do see that we can communicate open and honestly. What happens is, and also we talked about this before in the using I statements. A good amount of time in conflict, if you really listen to, if you're listening to people in conflict, you'll hear a good amount, or I'm going to speak again using I statements. When I hear people in conflict, I hear a lot of yous. You know what you did? You did this and you did that and blah, 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 blah. And go to you. If you think about you, every time you point, it's like a dart. You. Rather than saying, I experienced this when you did this. I experienced sadness when you yelled at me. I experienced anger when I came home and you didn't make me some Pop-Tarts. I don't know what it is, but when I can come from this place of what I'm experiencing first, that's going to open up the conversation. And the honesty starts with me. Okay. Rather than like me being honest and open about what I'm experiencing inside of myself. And by using I statements, that avoids blame and focusing on, and that focuses also brings focus into finding solutions. Another part of this is collaborative. Another key is collaborative problem solving. What the heck is this? Well, this is when we come to relator language, right, which is one of the lessons in Connectus. Relator language is about what can I say or what are the ways that I speak that will create open and honest communication. So some of the things that we go over in the lesson, I'm going to go over the core of this, which is in the core, and you can write this down. It's about connection, openness, reflection, empathy. Okay, I'm going to say it again. Connection, openness, reflection, and empathy. Connection is about building relationships through open and honest communication. Okay. Openness is about creating a safe, non-judgmental space for others to express themselves. Right? Like, so it's like a good amount of times, as far as being in a relator language capacity, I get to speak my truth first. So I can know, so other people know, like, oh, Jump, we can go there? Well, all right then. Right? Reflection is actively listening, responding with empathy and understanding, and being curious, echoing what you hear. And then empathy is the ability to put yourself in another's shoes and do your best to truly understand their experiences. Now, when we start to do this, people, this is about this enhances our ability to problem solve. We start to begin to seek win-win outcomes for ourselves. And also, when we start to use this core of relating language, now we're creating this space to truly co-create a solution, right? We co-create a solution. What's the reason I say co-create? Because again, this is collaborative. The solution is going to be free of only me. It's all of us involved in this quote unquote conflict. Another area that I want to address here, the compromise and flexibility. So what the heck does that mean? This is basically being willing to say, sometimes this is being willing to say like, okay, we'll agree to disagree. And I'm good with that. Are you good with that? Yeah, okay, I'm good with it. Like, hey, can we still go hang out and have a turkey club sandwich? Yeah, of course, man. You want sweet potato fries or regular? Oh, I'm good. You know, what does that do? By being flexible, flexibility gives us an opportunity to bend our perspectives a bit. Okay. To start to get a little deeper into the core or the reasoning that a person may think the way they think or want what they want. See, like I look at this as, and I mentioned this here, I'm just seeing this, I did mention this. This is about finding the middle ground. I like to refer to this as the common ground. There can be a lot of disagreements in politics, religion, ways of life, ways of parenting. Cool. What I find is in these relationships, when I give people the opportunity to express themselves and say what's on their mind, if they're willing to, I can ask the question, well, what is it that drives you to think that way? Or what's happened, or what have you experienced in life that had you take on that mindset? Now, what I can ask those type of questions, now I can say, oh, wow, like I can relate to that. Like, even though our outcomes are different, what I tend to find is in conflict, the core is the same. And bringing in a personal situation, like, listen, I failed to agree. I failed to really get along with the mothers of my children. What I do understand, though, is that the core root of it, we both love our kids. It's going to show different ways. And I may want to protect and battle a certain way, and she may want to protect and battle a certain way. And when it comes down to the root, we both love our kids. So the journey is finding out, how do we move from that common ground? Sometimes it'll work out and sometimes it won't, which brings us to the last piece of this, which is time and space for reflection. Okay. Sometimes it's stepping away. Has anyone ever had difficulty stepping away?
No, probably no. Honestly, I haven't. I can step away. It's just in my situation, my wife, when I get quiet, my wife gets mad. And so, that's the reason I hesitate to step away all the time. It may be the next day before I can process it in my mind enough to say it to her.
Oh, thank you for that. So that's real. That is real. There's I find that when I talk to people about conflict, especially in regards to relationship, there tends to be one that wants to step away and one that wants to continue in the battle.
Yeah.
Right. And there's times like I've had to, for me, it's about practicing. It's like a self-regulation piece, like, because I have a tendency to want to be in it. And like, there's been a piece of me that I found in my life where I want to be right or get the last word.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the self-regulation is being able to say, you know what, I want to step away and just collect my thoughts on this. Now, like Gary, your situation, and there's a lot of situations like this where the other party may be like, oh, hell no, you're not. We're going to finish this right freaking here and now. Right now, damn it.
Sometimes people don't want to start it again the next day.
Yeah.
Because it just runs it all up all over again.
It brings it all up, right? And then all of a sudden, because they want to, and what's the common ground? They want resolution. They may want it immediately, whereas like another person may say, I want resolution too, but I gotta think about this, man. There's a lot of stuff going on up in my freaking optic stem and my brain stem and all my body and stuff. I'm feeling a lot of things. So what do we do in that situation? Okay. We breathe. Sometimes what may happen, rather than stepping away, because in some situations, there may be no situations to step away. It could be a corporate thing. It could be like I'm in a conflict with a client. So a lot of times in that, and this is where the active listening to come in, right? Is, okay, tell me what's going on for you. And you listening, and then you reflecting, echoing what you're hearing, what this does, and breathing while you're doing this, because what this does is now this brings the executive brain forward. This can help me to be able to notice, like, okay, I'm hearing what you're saying. And as you say this, I'm feeling this. I have yet to know what it is. I'm telling you what I'm feeling. So let's come back to what you're saying, because when it comes down to it, everybody, this is again relating language. Someone that wants, I want to know right now, what the heck is this? Hey, look, they want to know. That's a commander, right? They want I want this, who, what, where, when, and why, and now. Okay, let me give you what you want right now. So I process what's going on for me. And while I may fail to know exactly at the moment what's going on for me, me being able to reflect back to that person and be able to say, oh, well, this is going on for me. Like, I'm just going to note that. And I'm going to track that. I'm going to come back to you. Like, tell me what else is going on for you. Because a lot of times that person that wants to, I want to get this out. A lot of times is they want to express. I want to express. And if there's no opportunity, because listen, again, and you notice in the slide, emotions have subdued and a calmer atmosphere can be maintained. A lot of times that person that wants to, like, I want to get into it now, I want to talk it now. Good amount of times you'll find that as far as resolving that conflict, it's about allowing them to express what's going on for them. Because that person may have an easier tendency or may have just the habit or the pattern of, I got to get this all out now before I forget, rather than relive it. Right. So this is a key piece that some of the things that we really dive into with Connectus. And these are and I'm going to share these slides with you all so you all have them. I'm going to send it through the email. I think it's important that we look at these types of conflict keys, conflict resolution keys, because each one of these keys is a practice. Okay, it's something that, do we get it? Like, oh, do we get it right off the bat? Absolutely not. Over time, do we get better with it? Absolutely. And that right there, my friends, is the key. So when I say this, and this is one of the reasons, like, before we wrap up, and I'm going to be respectful of time, is this is the reason I created Connectus, because I've seen in our society, and I'm going to give you a recap, not a recap, but like how I came to this. Like, so when I was facilitating for this men's group online called The Men's Work, one of our resources was a book by a book by a guy, John Tompkins. And it was Not Crazy Yet, Start Talking to Yourself Differently. And I remember meeting the guy. He was in one of our groups. He wanted to see what this thing was about, that we were endorsing his book. He liked what we were doing. And I started working with him. I started connecting with him online. Like, yo, John, I'm so happy you're in class, blah, blah, blah. He was like, okay, well, tell me your story. And John is a marriage and family therapist, brilliant guy. He took basically the nonviolent communication and he made it to red language, green language. And it was something that he's used in a lot of different things he's been contracted for. He worked with NASA to help them be able to connect better. He worked with a lot of big organizations to help them as far as connecting. So John came to me and he was like, and I'm telling him my story. And at the time I was going through my separation and divorce. And actually at the time also, I just had another kid out of wedlock. Well, not another, it was my first kid out of wedlock. And I was telling John this, and he was like, I think what I have here can help you. And I was like, F you, John, you can't help me. I'm already doing therapy, like, whatever. But he was like, no, I really think this can help you. I was like, okay, tell me how. So he laid a couple things on me and things he heard in my language. And I was like, oh, shoot. And from that point forward, I worked with John for 2 years. And he taught me a lot of things about how I can communicate, and it opened up a lot of things in me that really told the tale and helped me to start to see, well, heck, what the heck am I really doing here? How am I connecting and communicating with others? So that's why I created Connectus. And you'll notice here, I'm laying out Connectus. This is the pitch part of it. What I'm doing here with Connectus is I'm doing another cohort starting on September 24th. It actually may get pushed back to August 1st, but we're going to see about that. And there's 8 lessons, and these are the 8 lessons. From my work with John and integrating and applying this information that he's taught me, as well as other research that I've done over the years, over the past, at this point, 7 years, I put together this course, and I brought the communication to it. And I also brought the energy to it, the connectivity to it, the relationship to it. And I gave us an opportunity to really settle into, like, well, wow, what does all this mean? Like, what can this look like for us as we go forward? So in Connectus, this is our opportunity to really settle into what are the ways that we connect? What is active listening? What does that look like for us? How does that look? What are the ways that we practice our knowledge, our language bases? And then what are the ways that we talk to commanding and relating language and integrate all this stuff? And Emily's taking the course, and after we wrap up, she can provide feedback if you all want it. Because I do want to, after we end this session, I do want us to take a little opportunity to answer questions. And what I'm doing right now is while I'm really putting this course out here, especially for the remainder of the year as I go out on different speaking engagements and offer this course, I'm offering this course right now for $497. And it's an opportunity. If people are interested, there's going to be a link in the chat. You can fill out an interest form. I'm adding that right now. And also, if you're like, hey, I want to take this, then I'm also going to share with you all in the email that I'm giving you. You'll get this as well. I'm going to share with you all the link that you can enroll in the course. Now, with the course, you do get an online platform, which is also filled with the slides that we cover in class, There's some videos in there, and there's also articles to help reinforce the materials. I think this is an important step for a lot of people as far as like learning how we communicate with ourselves first. Because what I found is in this type of course and in communication, and Gary, you mentioned this before, a good amount of this is figuring out what are the ways that I communicate with myself? Because as I mentor and coach men, I find personally like men, I know for me, I can speak horribly to myself. I can should shame, like I should. I'm should shaming on myself.
Mhm.
I'm shaming myself. I'm confusing myself with my not language. Well, I don't want this. What do I want? This is a way for us to really tap in and engage. And I'm excited that I'm offering this course. And I'm really excited that you all join me for this conflict resolution discussion, because we're in a world right now where there's a lot of conflict. And Michael, you said it best. People are failing to hear each other. People are failing to hear a truth. And what that's creating is more disconnection. And I'm intent on helping to diffuse the disconnection and help people connect more with themselves and others. So thank you. Yeah, book Wired for Love. Thank you, Gary. Yeah, I'm gonna check that out. Nice. I'm in a book kick right. I've been in a book kick recently. So thank you, Gary. Thank you all for joining. I'm gonna stop the YouTube live right now, and I'm gonna open this up for questions. We're at 5:55. If people have to leave, I understand. And I will be sharing the email. So thank you all for joining on YouTube and watching. I appreciate you. Be well till